Hi everybody, it's good to be with you again. So, Mr. Chun Singh has indicated again that his party will call for the general election soon. He said this on Wednesday in a TV interview, adding that there is not much time left to hold the next GE. And not only that, he commented that Singaporeans are wise enough to look at the government performance not just on an episodic event, but how it has done in the long term. Now, two things to note from this statement. First, did he just admit, obliquely of course, the government's poor performance on an episodic event, which I take him to mean the COVID-19 crisis? The mishandling of the situation by him and his cabinet colleagues has been almost universally criticized, and which has cost this country dearly. Again, as with his fellow ministers, Mr. Chan cannot bring himself to do the decent thing. Take responsibility, apologize to the people, and promise to do better. Instead, he, to use our Singaporean lingo, like want to say but don't want to say like that. We'll deal with the matter on another occasion. For now, I want to focus on the second part of his statement. He wants the people to judge his team on the longer-term record. Let's oblige him, shall we? Now, I'll do this by recounting scandal after screw-up over the last few years, starting with the hepatitis C outbreak in SGH in 2015. Now, due to lapses in infection prevention over the virus and control practices, 25 patients were affected, of whom 8 died. And second, the Ministry of Health's HIV registry data system was leaked, which affected more than 16,000 individuals. And three, the SingHealth database was hacked, the biggest ever hacking incident in Singapore's history that led to the theft of 1.5 million patient records. 4, the Singapore Armed Forces SAF registered 5 deaths during training in a short period of 18 months. 5, Tan Tock Seng hospital personnel failed to properly sterilize dental equipment used on patients. 6, the deteriorating quality of SingPost service, which included an incident of a postman throwing away letters. 7, increasing frequencies of large-scale power outages. And 8, improper management of SMRT, which led to several major breakdowns, death of a maintenance crew, and flooding of a tunnel. Now, if you think that I came up with this list, you are mistaken. These episodes were enumerated by Liang He Zhao Bao, which called for corrective measures to be taken to restore the public's confidence. And that's not all. I'm sure many of you will remember the Mas Selamat incident. He was accused of being a terrorist, no less, and held in what was supposed to be a maximum security facility. And what did the prisoner do? He climbed out of a toilet window, landed on a few rolls of toilet paper, climbed over a fence, and walked out of the prison, all while surveillance cameras were not working. Then there was the riot in Little India in 2013, where ambulances and police cars were smashed and burned, and more than a dozen emergency staff injured. It was revealed that our police officers were not adequately trained, personnel was insufficient, and equipment was not working. And what about the HDB lift malfunctions? Can you remember those? On 14th October 2015, a lift door in Jurong jammed and caused an elderly lady's hand to be sheared clean off. Do you know how gruesome that is? 23rd January 2016 in Punggol, the doors of a lift remained open as the elevator moved. Ang Mo Kio, a lift shot up 17 floors, can you believe that? When the lift brakes malfunctioned. It trapped a passenger inside for 1.5 hours. Pasir Ris, a lift jammed when the doors opened, leaving a gap that caused a wheelchair-bound elderly passenger to fall and die. In Bukit Panjang, a lift bounced up and down like a yo-yo, going down from the 9th floor to the 1st, shooting up to the 11th, plunging back down to the 3rd, and finally going back up to the 12th. It left a 59-year-old woman's spine fractured. The problems continue into 2018. Then there were the concrete slabs and claddings on HDB blocks that crumbled off, which could very well have ended in injuries and worse, fatalities. There were 90 incidents between 2017 and 2019 where parts of HDB blocks fell off. Concrete chunks have also been crumbling within HDB units, the most recent one occurring this week, where a piece of concrete in the bathroom broke off and fell on a 6-year-old boy. And who can forget the ban on PMDs on major footpaths? Now, whether you're for or against the ban, that's a separate matter. What many were perplexed and vexed about was the sudden implementation of the ban, which came one day after the law was announced. Many users were left in the lurch. And this was after the Land Transport Authority required owners to upgrade their vehicles because the older ones were a fire hazard. Now, is this not reminiscent of the more recent U-turns like don't wear masks and then later issuing fines if you don't wear one? Or the ban on home-based businesses on 25th April, only for a flip-flop announcement to be made 1 week later to allow such businesses to operate? Or Education Minister Ong Ye Kung's insistence that schools remain open only to close them weeks later? Now, on the economic front, we're not doing better. Productivity growth has been dismal. Now, this report in 2017 said that studies show labor productivity in Singapore is decreasing. As for GDP growth, Mr. Chun Sing noted in 2018 that experts predict that going forward, Singapore will have 2 to 3% growth on average. Now, that sounds rather depressing. If he thinks that 2 to 3% growth is depressing, he should take a look at the figure in 2019. We registered a whole, now are you ready? 0.7% GDP growth. Skills and jobs are mismatched, retailers are exiting the country, malls are emptying, Orchard Road is dying, more and more Singaporeans are turning to driving Grab or delivering food to subsist, and on and on. Now, I don't have to remind you that all this was happening before the COVID-19 crisis. Now, we've even come up with a new term, the graduate poor, because our graduates either cannot find employment or if they find jobs, they are woefully underemployed. An international survey in 2019 found, compared to their counterparts around the world, Singapore's millennials are less satisfied with their lives and are largely pessimistic about Singapore's economic outlook. Another recent survey found that a whopping 92% of working Singaporeans report feeling stressed. Again, let me emphasize that everything that I just cited took place before the coronavirus pandemic hit. Now, throw into the mix the mishandling of the COVID-19 crisis, and you get what I mean when I say that the performance of the present lot of ministers does not inspire confidence. More importantly, do they know exactly how to take Singapore forward? So if Mr. Chan wants to make the overall long-term performance of his 4G colleagues the focus of this GE, we'd be very happy to do it. I assure him the picture is not pretty. And the minister may want to exercise just a little bit more modesty and perhaps do a little bit more self-reflection. Maybe it is his arrogance and misplaced sense of bravado that's talking, because people, tend to anyhow say things just because it's the election season. If it is, then I'd like to offer him some advice.
But be careful. Don't anyhow say things just because it's election season.